Okay, so this is the first of its kind where Julia and I were talking off camera, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Julia, we have got to go back on camera because so this is my first ever bonus edition. So, Julia, we were just talking. I'm so glad, first of all, you read through the questions, but you were commenting that they were such good questions and
Great
thoughtful
questions.
questions. And but then two of the favorite ones we didn't get to. So I thought, oh my gosh, we have to get back. So the first one I want to ask your thoughts on, and is this idea of the most overrated skill of a CEO and the most underrated. And I would love your thoughts on that one.
And I thought that was such a great question. No one's ever asked me that. And I think the most overrated leadership trait is that the CEO has all the answers. I
Mm,
can't think of anything I used to hear, and the answer is that's neither true nor is it of value to an organization.
that
So
is
I thought that was
incredible.
a great question because when I first got people would be like, well, what does Julia think? Well, I really don't care what Julia thinks, especially with consumer research. What is Julia? I don't think it matters. I want to hear what the
Right.
consumer has to say. I want to hear what all you guys have to say. We would pay all this money to an executive team. Let's get in a room and hear what you think. I
Yeah.
go last, you go first. So anyway, I thought that was a great question.
And then the most underrated. What is
Now that one that deserves spotlight is, and this is maybe controversial to some people, but I think the empathy for the front line. And because I started as a food server, to this day, if given the choice in going into a restaurant, I will always start in the back of the house and work my way front because I think the people on the front line who deal every day either making the product or dealing with the consumer have insights that you want, that you need, and that will make your company better. But if you don't empathize and you don't understand, you never get there.
Oh, and Julia, this is just yet another reason why we're just clicking so much is one of the things I do just inherently in my DNA is, and I've created these little stories on my LinkedIn, but it's stories from the front line.
Yeah.
And so every time I'm out there, whether it's a UPS driver, a DoorDash driver, a Lyft driver, a restaurant server, and I've even gotten invited to the back of the house, like in a hotel, because I'm interested in what they're doing. And this goes back to the transactions. People want to be seen and they love the idea of connecting. And so it's
I
so
I
simple.
was in a hotel recently and I was the person picking me up was late. So I'm just sitting in the lobby
Yeah.
watching this older gentleman who clearly worked for the hotel polishing
Mm,
this railing. And it was magnificent, beautiful, beautiful railing. And I turned to him, I got up and
yeah.
I turned to him and I said, so I take it you work here. And he said, I do. And I said, how long have you been here? We started chit chatting. He'd been there 30 years.
Wow.
And he said, I'm very proud of what I've accomplished. And he began to talk. And I said, well, that is probably the most beautiful railing, and no one can polish it better than you. And he got tears in his eyes.
Yeah, those are magnificent stories too, because it is, and I hear those stories all the time. People have worked these long, for years and years, and just the appreciate if somebody just appreciates the work they're doing, it makes their day. And I've had people give me hugs and cry, and I have these little stickers, and I'll have to send you some, but it says "Invest in Joy." And I hand these out. I hand these out to every around the world. I've handed out these little stickers to
I
invest
love
in
it.
joy. And so
That's a
I'm
great idea for me.
yeah,
I'm going to put the QR code on a sticker
yeah,
saying thank you and then hand people my QR code so they can get on the app.
there you go. But the
I love
stickers
it.
are amazing and that they've been so powerful.
Innovation. We're on top of it.
Yes. Okay. And then the other question that you said was so powerful that you wanted to share the story. And it was a childhood moment
Yeah.
that really stood out. So share with us that story.
I love the question. No one's ever asked me that. I had to be in the second or third grade. Those early years, I was in Cupertino before it was part of, Silicon Valley. It's changed
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
But back then it was just your basic lower middle class neighborhood. People trying to put their kids through school and whatever. Everybody was buying their houses on the GI Bill. We were no exception. And we lived in front of a huge like ravine that would go off periodically, and it was caged off and it had a little sidewalk, but it was how I got home from school, right?
Yeah.
And there was a class bully, and he was a horrible human being. I don't know where that came from, but
Mm.
it had reached sort of epidemic, and we'd all complained, but nothing had been done. And one day I'm on my little bicycle going home, and I hear a bicycle behind me. And I think, oh, somebody to say hi to. And I turn around and he's following me. And he says, get off your bike. And I'm
Um,
like, what? And he had a knife. Now, who knows where this kid came up with a knife? And I don't know. It was a very powerful moment because I'm really not sure where that came from. I'm not sure I can tell you. And I looked at him, I said, you have got to be joking. Are you serious? You're going to threaten me with a lethal weapon? Oh, I don't think so. Not only are you going to run the other way, but if I ever see you again, take me or someone else on, your life as you know it is over. And I'm going to be a living hell for you. And I got on my bike,
oh my God,
drove
Julia.
off. I was shaking, but it was a lesson I shall never forget. And
So
about a month later, he was expelled and never
Mm.
came. And I don't know what happened. It wasn't that event, but I remember getting home and telling my dad. And my dad was like, oh, we're going over to that house. And
Wow.
so literally reinforced what I had said and said to his, isn't it funny what you remember? I can't remember what the kid looked like, but I can remember his dad was a auto mechanic, and he had a little name tag on that was
Mm.
engraved that said Al. So
Oh.
the guy's name was Al, and he literally goes and gets the son and says, "Did you do this? Did you do this?" And the son said, "Well, kinda." And he said, "I just didn't like her." And
Wow.
And
But
I
God, Julia,
remember that was I remember it was a defining moment because fighting for those who have no voice, fighting for the underdog became sort of a lifeline for me for the
well,
rest
but
of my.
even just think about, I mean, first of all, at second or third grade, I mean, that's insane, right? That you could even have
Well, he
just,
was a troubled young man, but
yeah,
the fact that the school had not,
yeah,
for a lot of reasons, and again, I'll never know why, and who knows what the internal politics were,
yeah.
but
But still,
that
the
was,
fact that you were able, I mean, gosh, there's so much to that, like that you were able just to have that courage to like just get back in his face, number one. But then the fact that you saw the reinforcement of your dad and
yeah,
and then the consequences of that. I mean, they're so just even the moment that it happened is one lesson, but all the
yeah.
things that happened after that also, that's a powerful story. That
Anyway, I thought it was a great question. No one's ever asked. I've never talked about it. So,
well, this will be, we will call that and then hang on afterwards, but this will be the first ever bonus series because, and thank you. I am so glad for sharing those. So thank you.